Hello, welcome to Record Time. Record Time is a weekly Akashic experience where we explore simple and mysterious themes through the lens of the Akashic Records. My name is Mina. I'm happy to be here with you. If you're new, welcome. If you're unsure what the Akashic Records are, I invite you to check out my website, minaruchi.com. And there I have videos explaining all about what the Akashic Records are. You can watch me do readings there. There's like lots of videos waiting. There's a free guided visualization. There's classes and events. So there's lots of goodness waiting for you there at my website if you're curious. But for right now, thank you for being here. I invite you to just take this moment, if it's safe and accessible, to settle in and arrive wherever you are. And see what that means to you. What does it mean right now to settle in and arrive where you are? It could be as simple as taking a moment to notice where your breath is at. What's the quality of your breath? What does it feel like? Are you holding your breath? And as you notice your breath, see if there's a natural invitation there to deepen it or relax it in some way. If you're not multitasking, you can close your eyes. And just land wherever you are right now, feeling whatever surface you're resting on underneath you. Feel the contact of your body on the floor. Let yourself anchor in to wherever you are right now. So this week it feels like the topic is around motivation. And the records are asking us, when you're doing something difficult, or if you're doing something that feels like it's an edge for you, something maybe it's a little uncomfortable, maybe it's a little challenging, whatever it might be, if you're doing something that's an edge for you, ask yourself, why am I doing this? And this isn't meant to be like a defiant kind of, why am I doing this? Like, stop doing this. It's just an invitation to get curious around your motivation. When you're up against an edge, when you're doing something uncomfortable, when you're doing something that's hard, notice, ask, get curious around what is motivating you to do that thing. And there's a lot around this. So, let me see what's here. There are different reasons to do things that are uncomfortable. And when you're there's different types of discomfort and challenge that we experience. So when you're doing something challenging, it's worthwhile to ask, why am I doing this? To see what is it, what force or emotion is pushing you, propelling you, compelling you to do that thing. And this ties into what we were talking about last week too, of where is your credibility coming from? Like, are you doing something difficult just to feel valuable, to increase your sense of self-worth, or to increase the value, the perceived value that other people experience you having? Or when you're at an edge, and that's fine to do that. There's nothing wrong with that. But it's nice to notice where that's coming from, and when that source of motivation is at play. It's nice to notice that and just be aware of that. And then it could be that when you're at an edge, there's something uncomfortable. There's all kinds of reasons of like, oh, I'm doing this because it feels good. Like, I know it's hard, but there's going to be some value on the other side of it. And maybe that is, I will feel more valuable about myself. Like, I will feel better about myself by doing this. Or there will be a tangible result on the other side of this challenge that's making it worthwhile. There's something kind of pulling you, motivating you, incentivizing you to do that. And it's important to note, like, when you're seeking difficulty for the sake of difficulty, when you're seeking challenge and hardness just out of habit. And it's at that point where the awareness is a gift. It's so helpful to notice, oh, I'm making this harder than it needs to be. This doesn't actually need to be this difficult. And asking why, when you notice that, like, why am I doing this? Am I doing this just because it feels hard? You can go deeper than that too, of like, oh, I'm doing this because it's difficult and I have a habit of doing things that feel difficult, making things a little bit harder than they need to be. And then underneath that, it's like, well, why am I doing that? Where is that coming from? Just noticing what is present within that inquiry at that moment. It could be that a memory comes up. It could be that a person comes up. It could be so many different things, but you could see what's underneath that need to make it difficult. And this, I think, it's an interesting question to be in contact with, because it connects to how you relate to your intuition too. So people ask me all the time, it's like, oh, how do you know when it's your mind talking, and how do you know when it's your intuition? And this question, this little mini practice of when you're at an edge, doing something hard, coming into contact with the question, why am I doing this? And seeing, can you discern, why am I doing this? Can I get like a clear sense of what it is that's motivating me? Can I come into contact with whatever that motivation is that's present right now, that's compelling me to do something? So it's like, intuition aside, it's like when you're just living your life, are you in contact with what is motivating you? Is it this like organic kind of emergent desire to do something? Or is it just this like cyclical kind of hard, conditioned pattern of making things harder than it needs to be? And that in itself, that's a great way to practice cultivating intuitive discernment, because that is it. That is one expression of how we relate to and come into contact with intuition on a daily basis. And it might not feel intuitive. It's not like you got a sign or heard the voice of God and like, it's like, oh, I feel compelled to do this thing because my intuition said so. But rather at a very practical, subtle level, when things are difficult, when you're doing something challenging or that feels like an edge, why are you doing it? And that's a way to kind of wade into, it's like a really subtle like undercurrent of what motivates me. Is it something that is honest and organic within me? Is it who I am? Is it me that wants to do this? Or is this a habit that I may not have even chosen to develop? Is this something I was taught to do? Is this something that I've just practiced a lot and now I just don't even think about it? I just make things difficult because it's just the norm for me. So this question to put yourself into contact with your motivation, simple, 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 why am I doing this? Is actually a really beautiful, practical training step to cultivate discernment in different contexts, to cultivate intuitive discernment. And this is something you can do anytime you're doing something a little bit edgy. And you can do it at other times too, just noticing, why am I doing this? Does it need to be difficult? Who's talking within me when I'm doing something difficult or when I'm preparing to do something challenging? Am I forcing myself to do this, or is this coming from a place of organic desire? And just witnessing that. You don't have to change what you're doing, but just begin to notice it. Okay, that's where I'm going to leave you for today. I would love to know how this lands for you, especially the folks that have asked me that question, because I get that question all the time about intuition. People are so curious about intuition, how that works. I would love to know how this lands for you. Does that make sense? And yeah, if you have questions around this, you can send me a message or leave a comment. I'd love to see how this resonated with you. All right. I'm wishing you well. Until next time. Namaste.